It's 9:30 and this is Observer Radio News. I'm Victoria Wells with David Nicholas and Farrah Cole. In the weather, it's cloudy and cold at 2 degrees outside our East York studios. Now, here are the headlines. A Mississauga man is dead following a fire in his home. The Raptors beat the Chicago Bulls in overtime yesterday, and Nickelback swept the Juno Awards in Vancouver last night. Now to our top story. An unidentified man died in a late afternoon fire in Mississauga yesterday. Fire officials told CP24 neighbors spotted thick smoke pouring out of a home on Golden Orchard Drive. Some tried to run in to save the man, but the smoke forced them back. After bringing the fire under control, firefighters found the man dead in an upstairs bedroom. It appears the fire started there. There is no word yet on the cause of the blaze. The Humane Society of Durham Region burned to the ground on December 17 last year. The flames have been put out and the surviving animals have been rescued. There is a grave need for the shelter in the Durham region and the staff is eager to get back to helping the animals. But politics are getting in the way. Mallory Hendry reports.
Ruby Richards, manager of the Humane Society, is struggling to keep her staff motivated and the animals healthy. It's hard, Richards says, because they serve one of the largest areas in Ontario.
Between 500 and 700,000 people in Durham right now. And it's probably, as for area square miles, we probably have one of the largest coverage areas we have to deal with.
Getting the Humane Society back up and running has become a political issue. The city of Whitby is taking its time with the zoning. If they take the usual 4 to 6 months, the shelter may lose the land that they've bought. Lindsay Cope, animal care manager, is frustrated by the delay.
Oh, it just infuriates me. It's frustrating. I mean, I don't know, to me, but I mean, I don't know politically, I know nothing. It's just frustrating thinking, like, how hard is it to give us a little piece of land? Like, it's not like we're asking for, 200 acres in the middle of the city. Like, all we're asking for is an acre or two.
The community is showing their support through fundraisers and donations. Richards hopes this will put pressure on political leaders to make their zoning a priority. Mallory Hendry, Observer Radio News, Toronto.
A judge will decide today if a controversial British MP will be allowed into Canada. MP George Galloway is set to appear in Toronto tonight as part of a 4-city speaking tour. But immigration officials say they will not allow him into Canada for supporting terrorism. That's because he recently gave almost $50,000 to Israel's Hamas group. The Canadian government considers Hamas a terrorist organization. Mayor David Miller says he won't force city councillors to freeze their salaries. In a letter to the Toronto Star, Miller said councillors will decide for themselves if they will forgo a pay raise or not. Miller has already said he would not raise his own salary. Council voted in January to offset inflation by increasing their paychecks by a little over 2%. With the raise, councillors would make almost $100,000 a year. However, Miller has asked civil employees to accept a freeze to their paychecks. Council will vote on Toronto's new budget tomorrow and Wednesday. Some residents in Toronto's beach neighborhood are asking the city not to trap and kill a coyote roaming the area. They are circulating a petition asking the animal to be moved instead of euthanized. But provincial law says an animal cannot be transferred. It must be killed. The city said late last week it would take steps to catch the coyote. It killed a chihuahua in February. It is also being blamed for 2 other dog attacks and the disappearance of cats. Toronto joined other major cities in turning off the lights for Earth Hour Saturday night. Homes and businesses went dark for the hour between 8:30 and 9:30. Toronto Hydro reported a 15% drop in demand for electricity during the Environmental Awareness event. Last year, there was a 7% drop. And that's the latest news. Now here's David with sports.
Thanks, Victoria, and good morning. The Toronto Raptors continued their winning streak yesterday with an overtime victory against the Chicago Bulls. The Raptors won 134-129, the highest score ever for the Raptors. Chris Bosh scored 31 points and had 15 rebounds, including the game-winning bucket in overtime. Jose Calderon had a record-breaking game with 21 points and 19 assists. Calderon ties a franchise record for most assists in a game. Former Raptor Damon Stoudemire set the previous record. The Raptors' next game is this Wednesday against the Magic in Orlando. In NCAA basketball news, Michigan State knocked out top seed Louisville with a 64-52 win yesterday. The win moves Michigan into the Final Four. Michigan now faces Connecticut this Saturday at Ford Field in Detroit. Also making the Final Four are the North Carolina Tar Heels. North Carolina won 72-60 over Oklahoma, clinching the South Regional Final. The win marks North Carolina's second straight season advancing to the Final Four. North Carolina plays dark horse contender Villanova next Saturday. In hockey news, the Maple Leafs sent goaltender Justin Pogge to their AHL farm team. The move came one day after Pogge let in 6 goals on 20 shots in a game against Boston. It is unclear if Pogge will be in net for the Marlies' next game on Friday. The Nashville Predators beat the Stanley Cup champions Detroit 4-3 in NHL action yesterday. Ryan Suter scored the winning goal on a power play with 4 minutes 36 seconds left. Predator goaltender Pekka Ryan made 33 saves to help Nashville win its 3rd game in a row. A Toronto public school is teaching hockey to a generation of brand new immigrants. It's partly thanks to the charity wing of the Toronto Maple Leafs and other agencies. Now the kids who lace up their ice skates for the first time are finding other things fall into place. Jason Wong reports.
Students at George Webster's primary school are being introduced to one of Canada's most beloved traditions, hockey. Many of the students come from immigrant families, and the school's principal decided a new sports program would be a good way to let their students have fun, learn new skills, and raise their self-esteem. Ross Rideout, the school's gym teacher, was quite surprised at the generosity involved, but credits the community for making the program possible.
It was funny because when it was first mentioned to me, I said to myself, it's going to be really, really expensive. So then the Breakfast Club stepped up and donated the ice time as well as some of the equipment.
Nicknamed head coach by his colleagues, special education Jason James was an integral part of getting the program started. He convinced his contacts at Air Canada Centre to donate approximately 25 sets of children's hockey equipment, enough for 2 teams.
Before the Christmas holiday, they approached me, Nancy and Steve approached me about helping out with this project. So I, over the break, called Toronto Maple Leaf Hockey Organization. I have a few friends there, and I work with them in the summers, and I've done inter-city hockey programs with them. So I talked to them and organized to pick up equipment, and we got around 20 to 25, depending on 25 sets of equipment, about 50 hockey sticks,
and then
60, 70 hockey pucks.
For Rideout, the best part of the program involves watching the improvements in the children as he coaches.
Yeah, you have to understand that the kids who we have out, none of them, I don't think any of them had played hockey before. Ever. None of them. No.
Hasib, in grade 4, got involved in the program immediately after her teacher announced it.
Well, my friend encouraged me to watch hockey, and so I watched it, and after the next day, I got really interested in hockey. Then when at gym at the school, we played ball hockey, and I decided to learn how to play hockey.
Nancy Steinhauer, the principal of George Webster, says the hockey program has value beyond sharing Canadian culture and exercise.
I would say so. I was saying to someone else that there's some students whose attendance has improved. There's some students who are looking forward to being at school more. I'm more excited to be here.
I think it's improved our relationship with them. There's some that maybe weren't as open with us before, but now they seem to be a lot more friendly with us.
In the future, Jason James thinks that organizing a school cricket team would have great value.
You know, we're going to do other programs like cricket. That really represents a lot of the cultures at our school. But as new Canadians, we also wanted to introduce a sports form that we really hold close to our hearts as Canadians.
Are you guys looking forward to cricket?
Yeah!
This is Jason, Observer Radio.
Thanks, Jason. In golf, Tiger Woods won the Arnold Palmer Invitational yesterday. The win marks Woods' first tournament victory since recovering from knee surgery. Looking like his old self, Woods sunk a 15-foot birdie to clinch the victory. The win marks Woods' 6th Arnold Palmer Bay Hill Invitational victory. Woods now prepares for the Masters tournament in 2 weeks. And that's all for sports, but stay with us because after the break is entertainment with Farrah Cole.
I'm kind of a hopeless romantic. My husband, he's just kind of hopeless. But I discovered a surefire way to get him to bring me flowers. All I do is call him up at his office at about 10 o'clock. in the morning and say, "Hi, honey, do you know what today is?" Silence. Then I say, "You sniff, you don't know?" He says. Then I go, "Well, I don't want to talk to you until you can tell me what today is." And then I hang up. Then just when he's ready to go home, I call him and say, "If you don't know what today is, maybe you can remember to pick up some potatoes at Winn-Dixie on the way home. Potatoes are right next to the flowers." It never fails. He walks in the door with a sack of potatoes, a bouquet of flowers, and says, "Honey, I'm sorry. I just can't remember what today is." So I tell him it's Tuesday.
Welcome back, listeners. In entertainment news, the Junos were held last night in Vancouver with Russell Peters hosting for the second year in a row. Nickelback scored 3 awards, including Group of the Year, Album of the Year, and the Juno Fan Choice Award. Winners for the night also included City and Colour as Songwriter of the Year, Sam Roberts as Artist of the Year, and Lights as Best New Artist. Toronto rapper Cardinal Offishall won Single of the Year for his song Dangerous, beating out fellow nominee heavyweights Celine Dion, Michael Bublé, and Nickelback. Vancouver band Loverboy were also inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. Speaking of winners, Adrienne Badikufo is celebrating her win at Toronto Fashion Incubator's New Labels competition. The annual show features full collections from new designers across Canada, and the winner receives a spread in Elle Canada magazine and $10,000 toward their collection. Courtney Roberts has this report.
I'm here at Adrienne's studio in downtown Toronto, where models are waiting to be fitted for an upcoming show. Adrienne has been designing for 5 years and recently finished her first collection.
Well, my first collection was for Fall 08, and it was part of the New Labels competition. And so the collection itself was finished this past March, was when we had the last judging session of New Labels. The New Labels is a 4-month process. So you actually submit like the drawings of the collection, and then every month, periodically, you have to go in with 5 more outfits each time.
Her award-winning collection was actually inspired by the classy women of World War I.
The clothing actually changed out of necessity. Like skirts became shorter, like above the ankle for the first time in 100 years, just because the women were working, like doing this physical labor. So, and everything became a lot looser, but like still very like slim to the body, but kind of loose, because there were like sanctions on how much fabric could be used, because everything was really scarce.
For many fashion designers, there are no breaks. Adrienne is now working endlessly to draft her fall 2009 collection, which she hasn't yet put on paper.
It's going to be called The Last Woman Standing, and it's the kind of clothes that you would want to have in your wardrobe if the world was ending.
Adrienne has high hopes of becoming a renowned Canadian designer, much like Arthur Mendonça or the dynamic duo D Squared. Courtney Roberts, Observer Radio News, Toronto.
Thank you for that report, Courtney. In movie news, the movie Monsters vs. Aliens annihilated the competition at the box office, bringing in $58.2 million over the weekend, beating Watchmen as the highest debut of 2009 so far. Rounding out the top 3 movies are Haunting in Connecticut with $23 million and Knowing with $14.7 million. In celebrity news, Madonna is rumored to be adopting another child from